Hi, I'm Teresa Warren. I'm here today to talk to you about integrating universal design for learning in dual language programs. Here's our agenda for today. We will talk about dual language programs and how to integrate universal design for a learning framework. We will also talk about the principles and components of universal design for learning, and those are based on the TEKS in the state of Texas. We will also look at competency in four components of language in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And then also we will talk about our conclusion and evaluate today's learning. Dual language programs utilize second language acquisition components while integrating effective methods for making content comprehensible based on the standards or the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, the TEKS. One type of framework is the Universal Learning for Design or UDL framework, designed to accommodate a wide range of student abilities and needs. This was originally based on student needs for learning disabilities, and later the U.S. Department of Education came back and said, how can we address those specific needs for a broad range of learners to include English language learners? Uh, the need was there to meet the needs of all learners and also to include students that are second language learning. When we look at universal design for learning, we look at multiple ways of learning, um, how we can modify, accommodate, or vary our instruction so that we can strive to meet the needs of several different types of learners. We also look at multiple means of action and multiple ways of expression. How can students express their learning? Can it be done in a variety of ways? We want to incorporate that into our curriculum design. And then multiple ways of engagement and participation. What does that look like for different types of learners? What does that look like for the learner with ADD or ADHD? What does that look like for the learner that is maybe on the beginning scale of proficiency in their second language learning? Or what does that look for the advanced learner who is at a higher level of second language acquisition? So we want to provide these different levels of learning. We want to scaffold our learning so that we can meet the needs of a variety of learners, not just with different types of learners, but also learners that are different levels in their journey through second language acquisition and also as they acquire their native language more in depth. What is universal design for learning? The curriculum is created in such a way to accommodate a variety of ability levels with scaffolded approach to learning. Curriculum is designed to learn literacy and content in the learner's first language. So we want to consider what is their heritage language. Is it Spanish? We want to make sure that the student has a good foundation in their native language before they transfer those skills into their second language. And then the second goal is for them to be proficient in English with literacy skills, but also in their content and their knowledge of the skills that are learned at each grade level through the TEKS. Their learning is based on the TEKS in the state of Texas and also the ELPS. The ELPS are the English Language Proficiency Standards. So within the English Language Proficiency Standards, there are several different levels of language acquisition. We look at the beginning level of learning, the intermediate, the advanced, and the advanced high level of proficiency. When we are looking at these different levels of language with the English language proficiency standards, within each lesson we integrate language objectives. And then within each language objective in the lesson, we also look at the content objectives. What is the skill that's being taught at this time? So the content objectives are integrated into the lessons across the curriculum using the TEKS. Both the learning objectives and the content objectives are learning objectives based on these two standards, the TEKS and the ELPS, which are the English Language Proficiency Standards. Language proficiency is measured in L1, or their first language, and L2, the second language. So L1 for most dual language programs in Texas would be Spanish, and then L2 would be English, the second language. That would be for native Spanish speakers. However, for native English speakers in the program, it would be just the opposite. Their native language would be English, and then their second language, or L2, would be Spanish. And those two languages would be developed concurrently throughout scaffolding in the content areas. So even though students may be at different levels in their language acquisition, they're still learning concurrently through the content. So once we're learning the content, within that we look at what language level a student is learning in, whether it be their first language or their second language. When we're developing linguistic competency, we look at the 4 components of language. Those 4 components, we look at orthography within reading and writing. Then we also look at their auditory learning with listening, and then speaking, or their verbal or oral competency. So those are the 4 domains that are looked at within second language acquisition when we are considering the curriculum and designing a curriculum for a dual language program. Some important concepts to remember, important takeaways, is that when we design instruction, we want to scaffold instruction in a variety of ways to meet the needs of a variety of learners. We want these to be based on the TEKS and also to include the ELPS, or the English Language Proficiency Standards. When we're looking at those language objectives, we're looking at the 4 components of language, which would be reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And then when we look at linguistic proficiency, we also look at content skills. So we're looking at linguistic skills, linguistic proficiency, and then we're also looking at knowledge based on the TEKS. In conclusion, it's important to incorporate all aspects of universal design for learning in order to meet both the content and language needs of a variety of learners. When you're looking at today's learning and reflecting on it, I'd want you to consider this question: what 2 objectives are integrated into each lesson in a dual language curriculum to best meet the needs of learners? Would all students benefit from this strategy? These are the references used in today's presentation. Thank you.